Nini, everybody, Zabora here. So I want to talk a little bit about binding magic versus banishing magic, just because I have seen some silly little spells out there. Now, if you even Google binding magic and what it's used for, you will get some kind of generic answer about how it prevents someone from metaphysically doing something, more specifically, like keeping someone from doing harm to somebody. What does that sound like to you? Sounds like the movie The Craft, right? A fictional piece of work supposedly influenced by a real Wiccan or a real witch or whoever it was. Love the movie personally. That's not binding magic. And if it is, it's certainly not the origins, the true proper origins of what binding magic is and what it's used for. Binding magic has its origin in the Roman Empire and African magic, in which they would actually take two stick figures, stick them together, and wrap them up together to bind two beings together, to tie things together magically, okay? So more specifically, this was used in love rituals, but it could be used to keep, even today, like somebody faithful if you feel like they're cheaters or they have cheated in the past and you want to keep them faithful. You can use binding magic to keep them to you. There's lots of stuff you can do with binding magic. It's not specifically keeping people from harming themselves or others, okay? That's a fictional movie. Let it go. So, banishing magic, of course, is being rid of something. So, if you are going to be rid of something, you're not going to bind it to you. And that's something I have seen in spells. It'll say something like, I bind and banish you. It's like, okay, sure, I guess you could kind of argue that you're preventing it from doing harm and then being rid of it, but they're not really the same thing. To bind something is, again, to attach it, to put it onto something. So you're binding something to your house, like if it's a negative entity you're trying to get rid of. So you're binding it to your house to be rid of it? I don't know. My brain just doesn't work that way. So if you can reconcile it and make it work for you, great. I can't make that work for me. If I'm being rid of something, I'm banishing something. I'm not going to bind it first. I'm going to be like, fuck you, fuck your power, get out of here. I'm tired of your mouth, okay? It's nothing going to be like, oh, I'm going to prevent you from doing all this harm. Then I'm going to be rid of you. I don't care if you do harm. You're not doing harm to me anymore, though. Get out, okay? So it's that kind of situation. I don't even bother with binding. But again, that's my argument against binding and banishing spells. So it's up to you guys to kind of decide on what works for you. That's it for tonight, guys. Synapti.